There's something haunting about the silence just before midnight, the way shadows cling to the corners of an abandoned room, the faintest whisper of a breeze stirring the dust of forgotten secrets. Imagine stepping into that stillness, your breath shallow, your pulse steady, as you cross the threshold of a place where whispers carry more weight than shouts. Tonight, we're stepping into the world of the Dark Brotherhood, where every shadow hides a story, and every story could be your last. Whether you're listening from a quiet bedroom in the early hours or tuning in during the golden light of evening, we'd love to know, where does your journey into this tale begin? Let us know in the comments below, and let's unravel this mystery together. The Dark Brotherhood isn't just a guild of assassins. It's a web of secrets, a labyrinth of loyalties and betrayals that stretches across Tamriel's darkest corners. Picture this, a lone initiate, cloaked in shadows, slipping into an abandoned sanctuary where the air is thick with the scent of old blood and older lies. Their mission, to uncover the truth behind the guild's recent disappearances, a trail that leads deeper into the heart of the Brotherhood than anyone has dared to go. But the flicker of a single candle reveals a blood-stained note, its message chilling in its simplicity. Trust no one. In this world, even the walls have ears, and the price of curiosity might just be your life. What makes the Dark Brotherhood so compelling isn't just the danger, it's the humanity tangled in its shadows. These aren't mindless killers. They're bound by codes, by oaths, by the fragile threads of trust that can snap at any moment. And as we peel back the layers of their operations, you'll discover the whispers behind the blade, the stories woven into every contract. This is more than a tale of assassins. It's a journey into the heart of fear, loyalty, and the choices that define us in the darkest hours. So settle in, lower your voice, and let's step into the night together. The secrets of the Dark Brotherhood await, and trust me, you won't want to miss what we uncover. The handwriting on the note is unmistakable, each jagged stroke, each smear of ink a ghostly echo of a mentor long gone. Their fingers tremble, not from fear, but from the weight of memory. This wasn't just a warning, it was a final plea. But before the initiate can process the revelation, a rustling cuts through the silence, boots scraping stone, the muffled grunt of effort. Pressing against the damp sanctuary wall, they watch as shadowed figures drag a limp form deeper into the darkness. The body's face is obscured, but the guild insignia on their sleeve glints faintly in the torchlight. Someone else has fallen. The air thickens with urgency. Retreat means safety, but also surrender. Another mystery buried, another voice silenced. The initiate's grip tightens around their dagger. This is the moment where paths diverge. The cautious fade into the night, but the curious, they walk toward the whispers. And so, with a breath steadied by resolve, they step into the unseen, where every footfall could be their last. The truth is a dangerous thing to chase, but in the Dark Brotherhood, it's the only currency that matters. The word purge lingers in the air like smoke, heavy, suffocating. The initiate freezes, pressing closer to the cold stone wall as the hushed voices weave through the darkness. Disloyalty, elimination, silence, each syllable drips with finality. Then, a mistake, the heel of their boot grinds against loose gravel, the sound sharp as a blade in the stillness. The figures go rigid. For one heartbeat, the sanctuary holds its breath. Then chaos erupts, footsteps scattering, cloaks whipping through torchlight. Yet one remains, slow, deliberate. The mask comes off, and the initiate's stomach plummets. That face familiar, once kind, now twisted with something unreadable. A mentor, a friend, a traitor. The realization burns worse than any wound, but there's no time to dwell. The figure bolts, and instinct takes over. They're running now, dodging crumbling pillars. The scent of damp earth and old incense thick in their lungs. Then, a glint of metal beneath the altar, a seam in the stone barely visible. The initiate's fingers find the edge, prying it open, just as a dagger embeds itself in the wood above their head. No turning back. The passage yawns beneath them, black as a throat. Down here, the air is colder, the darkness absolute, but the truth, it's waiting. And it's hungry. The crypt swallows the initiate whole, its walls lined with relics older than memory, each one humming with the weight of centuries. The air here doesn't just feel cold, it feels aware, as if the stones themselves are listening. A flickering torch casts jagged shadows across a row of skulls, their hollow eyes watching, waiting. Then a whisper, not from the living, not from the shadows, but from the very bones of the place. It curls around the initiate's ears, a voice like crumbling parchment, reciting words chiseled into the guild's foundation. What is the color of night? The oath of the first assassins, spoken in a tone that aches with forgotten devotion. Their fingers brush against a skull smooth as river stone, its surface etched with symbols worn thin by time. The moment skin meets bone, the world fractures. A vision sears through their mind, a candle-lit chamber, a circle of hooded figures, and the glint of a blade driven into a brother's back. The gasp of betrayal echoes across centuries, sharp as the day it happened. The first fracture in the Brotherhood's unity, the wound that never truly healed. And now, here they stand, centuries later, staring into the same abyss of distrust. The ghost's voice sharpens, urgent now. The listener, it hisses, the name slithering through the crypt like a blade being unsheathed. But what does it mean? The title sparks recognition, a role whispered about in hushed tones, a figure said to hear the unspoken will of the Night Mother herself. Yet here, in this forgotten place, it feels less like a title and more like a warning. The initiate's breath comes fast. The Brotherhood's history isn't just a tale of blood and gold. It's a spiral, a cycle of loyalty, shattered and reforged in betrayal. And the deeper they go, the clearer it becomes. They aren't just uncovering secrets. They're walking a path someone, or something, has laid out for them. The skull's empty sockets seem to stare deeper now, as if asking a question the initiate isn't ready to answer. What do you hear in the silence? The ghost fades, but the challenge lingers. The listener isn't just a legend, it's a key, and the door it opens might not lead to salvation, but to the heart of the Brotherhood's oldest sin. The sanctuary feels different upon their return, not just empty, but violated. The door to their quarters hangs slightly ajar, and inside, the scene is one of calculated chaos. Furniture overturned, bedding slashed, the few personal belongings they dared to keep scattered like broken promises. Someone wasn't just searching, they were sending a message. But amid the wreckage, one detail stands out. The loose floorboard near the foot of the bed, barely noticeable unless you knew where to look, remains undisturbed. Kneeling, they pry it up with trembling fingers, revealing a slim ledger bound in cracked leather. The cover is unmarked, but the pages inside pulse with danger. Rows of coded entries, symbols that twist like snakes across the parchment. It takes only moments to recognize the patterns. Shipments of nightshade and frost murium, substances that leave no trace. Below them, names, not targets, but clients. And none of them bear the seal of the Black Hand. The ledger isn't just a record, it's proof. The Purge wasn't about loyalty, it was a distraction. Someone outside the Brotherhood is pulling strings, using the Guild's own knives to carve a path for their own ends. The realization coils in their chest, sharp and cold. But before they can trace the trail further, a knock shatters the silence. The fellow initiate at the door wears a mask of concern, their voice low with urgency. "You shouldn't be here alone," they whisper, stepping inside without invitation. Their hands are steady, but their gaze isn't. It keeps flicking to the ledger, then away, too quick, too deliberate. A bead of sweat slides down their temple. The initiate knows that look. It's the same one they've seen in the eyes of Mark's moments before the dagger falls. The air between them tightens like a garrote. Do they play along, hand over the ledger, and see where the thread leads? Or do they act first, trusting the instinct that screams this offer of help is just another blade in the dark? The choice hangs between them, unspoken. Outside, the sanctuary creaks, as if the very walls are holding their breath. The ledger's secrets are a weapon. And in the Brotherhood, even friendship can be a fatal gamble. The dockside reeks of salt and rot, the kind of place where deals are made in shadows and bodies disappear without a sound. Moonlight cuts through the mist, painting the wooden planks silver as the two assassins move in practiced silence. The allies' steps are too quick, their breathing uneven tiny cracks in the mask of calm. The target, a wiry informant with fear-glazed eyes, backs against a stack of crates, their hands raised in surrender. "Please," they rasp, voice fraying at the edges. I didn't tell them anything, I swear it." The ally doesn't hesitate. The blade flashes, a streak of cold light, and the informant crumples before the plea even finishes. Too fast, too eager, the initiate's stomach twists. This wasn't just efficiency, it was desperation. And then they see it. As the ally steps back, their gloved hand catches the moonlight, revealing a ring coiled around their finger like a serpent ready to strike. The symbol of the inner circle, the same one etched into the ledger's coded pages. The realization hits like a gut punch. This wasn't a routine kill. It was a test, a performance stage to prove loyalty, or weed out suspicion. The ally turns, their face unreadable in the dim light. "Clean work," they murmur, wiping the blade on their sleeve. But the initiate isn't listening. Every detail snaps into place, the nervous glances, the too perfect timing, the way the informant's words died before they could spill secrets. The ally wasn't just following orders, they were ensuring silence. Permanently, the wind shifts, carrying the scent of blood and brine. The initiate forces their voice steady. "You've been busy," they say, nodding to the ring. A flicker of alarm crosses the ally's face just for a heartbeat before their expression hardens. The game is up. No more masks, no more lies. The dockside, once just another stage for the Brotherhood's grim work, now feels like a battleground. And as the allies' fingers twitch toward their dagger, The initiate knows trust isn't just broken. It's a weapon, and it's pointed right at their throat. But the knight isn't done with its revelations. Behind the ally, half hidden in the shadows of a fishing net, something glints. A second serpent ring, clutched in the dead informant's fist. The inner circle didn't just send one traitor to the docks tonight. They sent two, and only one is leaving alive. The sewers swallow them whole, a labyrinth of damp stone and stagnant water, the air thick with the stench of decay. The initiate's boots slip on moss-slick steps as they descend deeper, the distant drip of water echoing like a ticking clock. Every shadow feels alive, every whisper of movement sending their hand to their dagger. Then, a scrape of metal on stone, too close. The thugs emerge from the darkness like rats from a flood, their faces obscured by scarves, their blades dull but deadly. No guild insignias, no markings, just hired steel with one purpose. The initiate braces, counting the odds, 3 against 1. Not impossible, but before the first thug can lunge, a blur of black cuts through the gloom. The rescuer moves like smoke fluid, effortless. A dagger finds a throat, a boot crushes a wrist. The third thug barely has time to gasp before the blade finds his heart. Silence falls, broken only by the wet thud of bodies hitting water. The figure turns, lowering their hood to reveal a face the initiate never expected to see again, the exile. Her eyes gleam like polished obsidian in the dim light, her voice a whisper that carries the weight of prophecy. "They told you I betrayed the Brotherhood," she says, stepping over the corpses without a glance. But the real betrayal is what's happening right now in the sanctuaries you still call home. She kneels, wiping her dagger on a thug's tunic before nodding to the initiate's clenched fists. "You felt it, didn't you, the dissonance, the way the contracts stopped making sense, the way the Black Hand's orders smelled more of politics than piety." Her words land like stones in still water, ripples spreading through the initiate's certainty. The foreign power she speaks of isn't just some rival guild. It's a force that's been weaving itself into the Brotherhood's veins, twisting oaths into puppetry. The Night Mother's true acolytes, she claims, were purged or exiled, replaced by those who serve gold over glory. A choice looms, heavier than any blade. Trust the exile, a woman, branded traitor, by the very masters who now plot in shadows, or return to a guild that might already be a hollow shell. The sewer's darkness presses in, the weight of centuries of Brotherhood history hanging between them. Somewhere above, the city sleeps, unaware of the war being waged beneath its feet. The exile extends a hand, palm up, no weapons, just truth. The Night Mother still speaks, she murmurs. But only to those willing to listen. The initiate's breath hitches. To walk away now is to abandon everything they've known. To step forward, that's a leap into the unknown, where the only certainty is blood. The shrine's entrance is little more than a crack in the stone, hidden behind a curtain of ivy, so thick it feels like the earth itself is trying to keep its secrets. The acolyte parts the leaves without a sound, revealing a descent into darkness where the air grows thick with the scent of wet earth and something older, something that hums beneath the skin. The initiate's pulse quickens as the first step downward sends a shiver through their bones. This isn't just a hidden place. It's alive. At the bottom, the cavern opens into a chamber, so vast it defies logic, its ceiling lost in shadow. The shrine of Sithais looms at its heart, an altar of jagged black stone, where candles burn with flames that cast no warmth, their light swallowing the air instead of brightening it. The acolyte doesn't speak, only gestures toward the altar with a hand that trembles, not from fear, but from reverence. The initiate approaches, their breath shallow, and as their fingers brush the stone, the shadows around them stir. Not like wind, like something waking, a voice, if it can be called that, coils up from the darkness. It isn't heard with ears, it's felt, a vibration in the teeth, a pressure behind the eyes. Confess, the word isn't a request. It's a blade pressed to the throat of the soul, and so the initiate does. Not the petty regrets, not the half-remembered slights, but the true guilt. The moment they hesitated on a kill, and a child saw their face. The contract they took not for duty, but for spite. The brother they let die because pride whispered they could handle the mission alone. Each admission is a weight lifted and a chain tightened, the shadows drinking them in like ink on parchment. Then silence, the candles gutter, their flames stretching unnaturally toward the ceiling before snapping back. The shadows at the altar's base writhe, twisting into shapes that resolve into lines, into contours, into a map burned into the stone itself, a coastline. A cave, a gathering of figures marked not with names but with symbols. The same serpent rings from the docks. The acolyte exhales sharply, their voice barely audible. They've been using the old smugglers' tunnels. That's how they move without being seen. But the map isn't the only thing the shadows reveal. As the initiate leans closer, the markings shift, forming words that weren't there a moment ago. The blood of the faithful will open the way. The acolyte goes very still. It's a trial, they murmur. Sithais doesn't give answers, he gives tests. Their hand closes around the initiate's wrist, not in restraint, but in warning. If you go there alone, you won't return, not as you are. The unspoken truth hangs between them. This isn't just about stopping traitors. It's about becoming something else entirely. The initiate's reflection stares back at them from the altar's polished surface, eyes wide, mouth set, the face of someone who's already chosen. The shadows whisper the rest. Prove you are worthy of the void. The mercenaries don't just stand guard, they pace like wolves, their eyes scanning the tree line with a hunger that speaks of more than just gold. The serpent sigil glints on their cloaks, a taunt in the moonlight. Every instinct screams to turn back, but the initiate's fingers tighten around the hilt of their dagger. This isn't just about survival anymore. It's about unraveling a plot that could drown the Brotherhood in its own blood. A distraction, simple, effective. A loose stone, hurled into the underbrush, sends two guards crashing toward the noise, their curses swallowed by the night. The third lingers, his hand resting on the pommel of his sword, but his gaze drifts toward the distant glow of a campfire. The initiate moves like a shadow between heartbeats, slipping past the threshold where torchlight gives way to the cave's gaping maw. The air inside is thick with the scent of sweat and iron, the distant murmur of voices bouncing off damp stone. The words are fragmented at first timing, diversion, the sacrament, but then the pieces lock together with chilling clarity. They're not just targeting a single mark. They're planning a massacre. The next Black Sacrament, the holiest of the Brotherhood's rituals, will be a slaughterhouse. Every sanctuary head, every speaker of the tenets, lured into the open under the guise of tradition. The initiate's breath catches. This isn't betrayal, it's extermination. A pebble dislodges underfoot, skittering down the rocky slope. The conversation stops dead. Boots scuff against stone as heads turn toward the darkness. No time to think, only to move. The initiate bolts deeper into the cavern, the shouts of the mercenaries ringing behind them. The tunnel narrows, the walls pressing in like a vice, but there's no choice. Going back means death. Going forward, that's a gamble with the darkness itself. Somewhere ahead, water drips in a steady rhythm, a morbid metronome counting down the seconds until the Brotherhood's end, unless one rogue initiate can outrun fate. The chains rattle like dying breaths in the gloom, each link biting into flesh worn raw by weeks. Or is it months of captivity? The prisoners slump against the damp stone, their once fine armor tarnished, their hoods torn. Guildmates, brothers and sisters in shadow, the initiate's dagger is already at the first lock when a gaunt hand clamps around their wrist. The oldest captive lifts his head, his voice a cracked whisper. Don't, his eyes dart to the ceiling, where jagged cracks spiderweb across the rock. They're listening. The confession spills from him like blood from a wound. How the captives were taken not for betrayal, but for refusal. The veiled queen's enforcers wanted them to swear new oaths, to carve her symbol over the black hands in their flesh. Those who resisted were left here as warnings. The initiate's gut churns. This isn't just a prison. It's a stage, a performance for the next poor soul who stumbles in, to break them before the queen's knife even touches their throat. Metal grinds as the last lock gives way. The freed assassins don't cheer. They don't even stand. They simply press their foreheads to the initiate's boots, a gesture of gratitude so raw it aches. One, a woman with a scarred lip, presses a sliver of obsidian into their palm, a shard from the Night Mother's own shrine. She's real, the woman breathes. The queen fears her, that's why she's tearing us apart. Footsteps echo in the tunnel beyond, heavy, numerous. The initiate shoves the obsidian into their sleeve, but the choice is already made. They won't leave these souls to rot, even if it costs them the mission, even if it costs them everything. The prisoners rise as one, their eyes glinting with something long thought dead, not hope. Vengeance, and as the first torchlight flares around the corner, the initiate realizes the truth. The veiled queen didn't just lock away her enemies. She caged a storm, and now it's loose. The tunnels stretch endlessly, their walls slick with moisture that glistens like sweat under the flicker of the initiate's stolen torch. Most of the freed prisoners vanish into the gloom without a word. Smart, perhaps, when every shadow could hide a knife. But one lingers, a gaunt figure with a face like cracked leather and eyes that have seen too many betrayals. They move with the quiet precision of someone who's spent a lifetime navigating darkness. This way, the assassin murmurs, gesturing toward a fissure in the rock, barely wide enough to squeeze through. The queen's dogs never check the old escape routes, too proud to believe we'd crawl like rats. The passage twists, narrowing until the stone presses against their ribs like a vise. The assassin's voice, though hushed, carries the weight of years. She wasn't always a monster, they admit, fingers brushing a groove in the wall, a mark left by some long-dead prisoner. Just a noble's daughter with a taste for power and a grudge against the world. The The story unfolds in fragments, each step deeper into the tunnel, revealing another piece of the puzzle. How the Veiled Queen's family fell from grace. How she watched her father executed for treason he didn't commit. How she learned early that the Empire's justice was just another blade for sale. She didn't join the Brotherhood to serve Sithais, the assassin spits. She came to steal it, to turn our knives into her scalpel. A distant rumble shakes the earth, collapsing stone or marching boots. It's impossible to tell. The initiate's pulse hammers, but the scarred assassin doesn't flinch. The Black Sacrament was her masterpiece. They continue, ducking beneath a low overhang. Not a holy rite, a auction. The highest bidder names the mark, and the Brotherhood delivers no questions, no records, just gold flowing back to her coffers. The realization hits like a dagger between the ribs. This isn't just corruption, it's a coup. The Veiled Queen hasn't just infiltrated the guild, she's turned it into a private army. Its ancient oaths were written in blood and coin. The tunnel spills into a cavern where the air smells of salt and iron. Moonlight filters through a grate high above, painting the assassin's scars silver. You think this ends with the Brotherhood. They rasp, tilting their face toward the light. She's already got claws in the Imperial Guard, the Merchant Lords, maybe even the Elder Council. We're not just fighting for our guild, we're fighting for the soul of the Empire. The Initiate's breath catches. This conspiracy isn't a shadow creeping through the Brotherhood's cracks. It's a storm swallowing the horizon. And as the assassin presses a rusted key into their palm, the weight of it settles deep. The key isn't just to a door, it's to a war. Dawn bleeds across the sky in streaks of red and gold, painting the caravan's path like a trail of old wounds. The coffins stacked atop the wagons aren't the rough-hewn pine of paupers. They're lacquered black, adorned with silver filigree that winks mockingly in the newborn light. Too fine for prisoners, too quiet for the dead. The scarred assassin's breath hitches as they crouch in the brush. Those aren't for bodies, they murmur, fingers tightening around the hilt of a dagger. They are for transport. The ambush is swift, silent. A snapped rein here, a well-placed blade there, and the lead wagon lurches to a halt, its driver slumping forward before he can cry out. The initiate vaults onto the bed, prying open the nearest coffin with a creak that echoes like a death rattle. Inside, nestled in velvet-lined compartments, are weapons, daggers, vials of something that smells faintly of bitter almonds, and folded cloth emblazoned with the serpent sigil. But beneath them, stamped into the steel with cold precision, is the Imperial Dragon. The assassin's face drains of color. Gods below, they breathe, tracing the mark with a trembling finger. This isn't just a coup, it's a masquerade. The pieces click together with terrible clarity. The coffins aren't just smuggling weapons, they're disguising them. Every shipment that slipped through the Brotherhood's sanctuaries, under the guise of honoring the dead, has been lacing the guild's veins with poison. And the meeting hall, it's not a sanctuary anymore. It's a slaughterhouse waiting to happen. The assassin crumples the cloth in their fist, their voice a razor's edge. The sacrament tonight, it's not a ritual, it's a trap. The heads of every sanctuary, gathered in one place while the Empire's knives slide in behind them. Hoof beats thunder in the distance, reinforcements, or worse, the next wave of the caravan. There's no time to bury the bodies. no time to hide the evidence. The initiate meets the assassin's gaze, and in that moment, the unspoken truth hangs between them. They're not just racing to warn the Brotherhood, they're racing to stop a war. The wagon lurches forward, its wheels churning mud as they carve a path toward the meeting hall, where the Guild's fate, and perhaps the Empire's, is already being written in blood. The hall thrums with tension, every assassin's posture rigid beneath their ceremonial robes. The initiate melts into the sea of hooded figures, their pulse steady despite the storm brewing behind their ribs. At the center of the chamber, the veiled queen's envoy ascends the dais, her gilded mask catching the torchlight like a warning. The old ways are ash, she declares, her voice slick with false reverence. Tonight we rise, not as shadows, but as a blade in the light. Murmurs ripple through the crowd, some eager, others uneasy. The initiate's fingers twitch toward their dagger, but movement here would be suicide. Then, a crash the allies doing, a brazier's topples, flames licking at tapestries as screams erupt. Chaos becomes their cloak. Backstage is a tomb of silence compared to the roaring hall. The listener's binds cut deep into her wrists, her silver hair matted with blood, but her eyes gods. Her eyes burn with a fury that could scorch stone. The initiate's blade is at her ropes in an instant, but the listener shakes her head violently, nodding toward the door. Footsteps, heavy, armored, the queen's personal guard. Time fractures, cut the bonds now, and the guard's alarm will bring the entire hall down upon them. Walk away, and the Brotherhood's heart dies tonight. The listener's gaze locks onto the initiates, and in that moment, words aren't needed. The truth is a living thing between them. The veiled queen's coup isn't just about power. It's about erasing the Night Mother's voice forever. The guard's key rattles in the lock. The initiate exhales not in fear, but in resolve. Sometimes, the quietest choices echo the loudest. The dagger finds the guard's throat before the door even opens. The envoy's words slice through the hall like a blade, kneel or die. And for one breathless moment, the entire Brotherhood teeters on the edge of a knife. Then the listener's voice cracks the silence, not with a plea, but a proclamation. Each name she calls is a hammer stroke. Valen, Rasha, the one who calls herself the Veiled Queen. The air itself seems to recoil. Hoods are thrown back, masks torn away as the accused snarl and lunge, their treachery laid bare. Steel sings against steel, the clash of loyalists and turncoats, ringing through the chamber like a funeral bell. The initiate doesn't see the allies' blade coming. They feel it, the whisper of displaced air, as the dagger grazes their ribs. Spinning, they lock eyes with the one who stood beside them at the docks, whose lies were wrapped in camaraderie. The serpent ring gleams on the traitor's finger, its silver coils mocking. Every feint, every parry is a conversation they've had before in training halls, but now the stakes are written in blood. The traitor fights with the desperation of someone who knows there's no retreat, their strikes wild but precise. Then, an opening. The initiate's dagger finds the gap in the traitor's guard, not to kill, but to disarm. A twist of the wrist, a flash of pain, and the ring flies free, skittering across the stone floor with a sound like breaking ice. The sight of it, unmoored from its master, sends a ripple through the fray. Proof, tangible, undeniable, the envoy's decree wasn't just a demand. It was a confession, but the listener isn't finished. She steps forward, her torn robes billowing, and raises a hand. Not in surrender, but in summons. From the shadows, figures emerge: exiles, prisoners, the forgotten, and the purged. Their blades bared not for the Brotherhood, but for its soul. The fight isn't over. It's just begun, and as the initiate scoops up the fallen ring, its weight cold in their palm, they realize this isn't just about surviving the night. It's about reclaiming what it means to belong to the dark. Flames claw at the ceiling of the meeting hall as the initiate and the listener burst onto the rooftops, the night air biting with the scent of smoke and spilled blood. Below, the cobblestones shimmer with the reflections of torches and drawn steel, shouts rising like a storm tide. The listener's grip on the initiate's arm is iron, her whisper frayed with urgency. The veiled queen was never one of us, she rasps. She's Duchess Ileana Barrow, stripped of her titles after her family's failed rebellion. The Emperor pardoned her, but she's spent every moment since sharpening her knives in the dark. The revelation lands like a dagger between the ribs. This wasn't just a guild schism. It was a noble's vendetta dressed in Brotherhood leathers. The initiate's mind races, piecing together the fragments, the shipments stamped with the imperial seal, the coffins too fine for corpses, the way the queen's enforcers moved with the precision of soldiers, not assassins. The listener's next words are colder than the wind, slicing through the rooftops. She's already inside the Ruby Throne's court, planting whispers, turning allies. The Emperor doesn't know the viper he's led into his bedchamber. A horn blares in the distance, the city guard sealing the gates. The initiate tenses, but the listener presses a serpent ring into their palm, its metal still warm from the traitor's finger. The spymaster, Marrow, he'll know what this means, but you won't reach him through the gates. Her fingers unfurl a scrap of parchment, its edges charred, the ink bleeding into the fibers like old wounds. The ratways, she murmurs, where the city's bones show through. The initiate knows the stories, the labyrinth beneath the capital, where beggars and rebels trade secrets like coin. But the scroll's map isn't the tidy lines of a cartographer. It's a frenzied sketch, arrows pointing to gaps in the masonry, to sewers that dead end into forgotten passages, to a single, circled notation, the drowned door. The listener's gaze hardens. It won't be guards waiting for you down there. It'll be her rats, and they'll be hungry. A crash echoes from below as part of the hall's roof collapses, embers spiraling into the sky like dying stars. The listener doesn't flinch. Go, she orders, but her hand lingers on the initiate's shoulder for a heartbeat longer than necessary, not a mentor's dismissal. A farewell. The initiate hesitates, the weight of the ring and the scroll pressing against their ribs like a second heartbeat. Then they turn, leaping onto the next rooftop as the night swallows the listener's final warning. Trust the dark. It's the only thing she hasn't poisoned. The city stretches before them, its streets pulsing with alarm, its shadows deeper than they've ever been. Somewhere below, in the belly of the world, the ratways wait. And so does the truth. The ratways exhale the city's rot, a stench of damp wool, spoiled food, and unwashed skin, clinging to every brick. The initiate's boots sink into something soft and unspeakable as they navigate the narrow passages, the occasional drip of water from overhead, the only sign they haven't descended into the belly of some great, living corpse. A flicker of movement darts ahead, a child, all sharp elbows and sharper eyes. materializing from the shadows like a specter. Their grin is a slash of crooked teeth. "Lost, sir," they chirp, palms upturned in mock innocence. "2 coppers, I'll show you the way." The initiate hesitates. The ratways don't breed kindness, only bargains. But the boy's fingers twitch toward his belt, too quick, too practiced. A knife, a signal, the tunnels tighten as they follow. The boys chatter a relentless stream of half-truths. "Mind the step, sir. It's slick with piss." Or, "The guard changes at midnight. Best hurry." Every turn feels wrong, every alcove too dark. Then, a scuff of boots behind them. The initiate whirls, but too late. The boy's grin widens as figures detach from the walls, their blades dull but deadly. "Sorry, sir," the urchin croons, backing away. "Boss pays better." Steel meets steel in the choking dark. The initiate fights like a cornered animal, elbows, knees, the hilt of a dagger cracking against bone. One assailant goes down gurgling, another clutching a ruined eye. But the boy is gone, and with him, the ring, torn free in the fray, lost in the filth. The spymaster won't take kindly to excuses. No proof means no trust. No trust means no allies. Gritting their teeth, the initiate presses forward, the listener's map seared into their mind. The ratways have a way of reshaping themselves, of swallowing the unwary whole. But the spymaster's lair lurks somewhere ahead, a spider at the center of this rotting web. And if memory is all they have left, then memory will have to be enough. The initiate's fingers trace the wall, counting cracks, marking turns. Somewhere above, the city sleeps. Down here, the only law is survival, and the initiate, they've gotten very good at surviving. The spymaster's chambers reek of ink and intrigue, the walls lined with scrolls that whisper of 100 conspiracies. His fingers drum against the desk as the initiate recounts their tale, his gaze sharp enough to flay lies from flesh. A serpent ring and a map are not proof, he murmurs, though the tension in his jaw betrays his interest. The Emperor's court is a nest of vipers. Accuse the wrong noble, and it won't just be your head that rolls. The initiate's stomach knots, until memory strikes like a match in the dark. The ledger, the one they hid beneath the floorboards, its pages thick with damning entries, but the sanctuary is a graveyard by the time they return. The floorboard gapes, hollow as a picked bone, and the ledger is ash on the wind. Despair claws at their throat, until their boot brushes against something stiff. A single page, folded small enough to escape notice, its edges singed but the ink still legible. The spymaster's breath hitches as he unfolds it, his eyes darting across the coded script. Then, a sound like a man drowning in air. "Gods above," he rasps, thrusting the page back as if it burns. "The Duchess dines with the Emperor tonight." Alone, the words land like a headsman's axe. Every assassination begins with proximity. A toast, a shared goblet, a needle dipped in something even kings can't taste. The spymaster's hand trembles as he reaches for a bell too slow, too late. The initiate is already moving, their mind racing faster than their feet. The palace gates will be sealed, the guards doubled. But the ratways taught them one truth. Every fortress has cracks. The Duchess may have poisoned the Brotherhood, but she's forgotten its first tenet. Never underestimate a shadow with nothing left to lose. The night air howls as they sprint toward the palace, the weight of empires balanced on a single scrap of paper. and the knife in their sleeve. The banquet hall glitters like a gilded cage, every candelabra and goblet polished to a blinding sheen. The initiate moves through the crowd with the quiet efficiency of a shadow, their borrowed servant's livery scratchy against skin still raw from the rat waste. The Duchess, no Ileana, stands at the Emperor's elbow, her laughter a silver blade wrapped in silk. Her fingers curl around a goblet studded with rubies, the wine inside dark as a fresh bruise. The initiate's pulse hammers, but their hands stay steady. They've trained for this, not the pageantry, not the politics, but the moment when a single breath separates life from death. The Emperor reaches for his own cup, his face relaxed in a way only the truly oblivious can manage. The initiate doesn't think, they act. A lunge, a sweep of the arm, and the goblet clatters to the floor, its contents hissing against the marble like a dying thing. For one terrible second, the world holds its breath, then chaos erupts. Guards surge forward, their blades bared, but it's the Duchess's face that tells the real story. Her mask of composure shattering into something feral, desperate. Lies, she snarls, but the word cracks like rotten wood. The spymaster steps from the crowd, holding aloft the singed ledger page like a warrant, and then her. The listener, she emerges from the shadows as if conjured, her robes still streaked with soot, her gaze fixed on the initiate. No words pass between them. None are needed. The nod she offers isn't just approval, it's recognition. The Brotherhood's honor may be restored, but the initiate knows the truth. They'll never scrub the ratways from their nails, or the weight of that stolen ring from their palm. The guild will rebuild. The Emperor will sleep soundly tonight, but the initiate, they've crossed a threshold no blade can ever sheathe. The shadows they once wore as armor now cling to them like a second skin. And as the Duchess's screams fade into the clamor of the hall, one thought lingers, sharp as a dagger's edge. Some oaths aren't sworn, they're carved into the soul. The blood-red moon casts jagged shadows across the Night Mother's shrine, painting the initiate's bowed silhouette in hues of rust and ink. The air hums with the scent of melted wax and iron, the silence so thick it feels like a held breath. The listener's hand rests on their shoulder, not the weight of a mentor's pride, but the gravity of a shared burden. You saw the shadows and brought light, she murmurs, her voice frayed at the edges like a well-worn blade. It isn't praise, it's an epitaph for the person they used to be. The initiate's fingers trace the fresh brand on their wrist, the black hand's sigil, still tender beneath the bandages. A mark of belonging, or a collar. The candles gutter suddenly, their flames twisting as if caught in an unseen wind. Then, the whisper, not from the listener, not from the lingering ghosts of the sanctuary, but from the void itself. A name, unfamiliar, unwelcome. The initiate's spine stiffens. They've heard tales of this moment, the way the Night Mother's voice slithers into the mind like cold water, seeping through cracks. But knowing and feeling are oceans apart. The listener doesn't react. Her face remains a mask of worn stone, but her grip tightens imperceptibly. The first name is always the hardest, she says, though the words carry the weight of a warning. Not because of the kill, because of what it asks of you. The unspoken truth hangs between them. This isn't just a contract, it's a test. The name belongs to someone innocent, a merchant, a healer, someone who's never held a blade. The Brotherhood's justice has never been about fairness. It's about faith. Outside, the wind howls through the sanctuary's broken windows, carrying the distant chime of a city bell. Dawn isn't far off. The initiate rises, their reflection warped in the shrine's blackened glass, a stranger wearing their face. Somewhere in the city, a life waits to be extinguished. Somewhere in the shadows, the veiled queen's remaining disciples plot their next move. And here, in this liminal space between night and morning, the initiate learns the hardest lesson of all. In the Brotherhood, there are no endings. Only pauses. The candles flicker once more, and the whisper comes again. Louder this time, a serpent coiling around their heart. The hunt begins at sunrise.